WDS, your news hot seat. I'm Travers Mackel. It is election season across Southeast Louisiana, and we are picking up our series of hot seat debates tonight. Right now, we're talking about the race for judge for an important court in the city of New Orleans, the race for municipal and traffic court judge for Division E. Municipal and traffic court is one of the larger courts in Southeast Louisiana. It handles all misdemeanor cases as well as DUIs and many domestic violence cases. Two men have qualified for this race, both of them attorneys, both of them here tonight. They are Jeffrey Gates, a Democrat, and Bobby Smith, also a Democrat. Gentlemen, thank you all for being here. We know that obviously there is a lot to get to in this race, and you want to let people know watching why you all feel you are the best candidate to win this race. We're going to do a 60-second opening statement. Mr. Gates, we're going to start alphabetically, so we start with you. You can let viewers here know why you feel you're the best candidate to be a judge.
Thank you, Travers. My name is Jeffrey Gates. Again, I'm running for Traffic and Municipal Court Division E. I'm running because of my experience and my commitment to change. For the last 14 years, I've been an attorney in Traffic and Municipal Court. Before that, I was an assistant district attorney. Before that, I was a judicial law clerk. I am a graduate of Southern University Law Center, St. Augustine High School, and I grew up in the Carrollton-Holly Grove area. What I'd like to do in Traffic and Municipal Court is bring more wraparound services to the municipal side of the court. As you stated, municipal court sees a lot of cases. A lot of the people who come into municipal court are in trauma. So we need professionals in that building to give wraparound services to people who have truancy cases. We also handle prostitution and solicitation of prostitution cases. We handle domestic violence. So we need we need people to help out in the court to help our people here in New Orleans.
All right, we're going to get to a lot of those topics when we get to questions. Mr. Smith, you have 60 seconds to make an opening statement and let people know why you feel you're the best candidate for judge.
Thank you, Travis. Thank you for having us. I appreciate you. My name is Bobby Smith. I'm a candidate for judge for Municipal and Traffic Court Division E. I'm originally from Algiers. I'm a graduate of Au Pair Walker High School, Southern University in Baton Rouge, Southern University Law Center in Baton Rouge. The reason I'm running is because I'm prepared, I'm experienced, and I'm committed. My experience of 20 years of practicing law in the city of New Orleans, I own my own firm for 20 years. I've been a prosecutor in municipal and traffic court. I've been a defense attorney in municipal and traffic court. And I've had the privilege and honor of sitting judge in municipal and traffic court. And I believe those three things makes me uniquely qualified to be the newest judge in municipal and traffic court.
All right, let's get to the questions here. 60 seconds. We're going to start with you, Mr. Smith. Both of you all are veterans of that courthouse, so you know this is an issue. People just don't show up to municipal and traffic court. It's a problem. Judges have to issue arrest warrants. If elected in 60 seconds here, Mr. Smith, what is your plan to get people to show up for court without having to set high bonds?
Well, if you don't show up for court, Travis, the judges have to act, right? It's a criminal court, so the judges must take action. And by taking action, they have to initiate attachments of warrants. My plan is to have at least a period of delay, maybe a couple days before the warrants and attachments are issued, because people have problems, Travis. Sometimes it may be a death in the family, a serious accident. Last night there was a traumatic accident in my family. If he had to be in court today, maybe he couldn't be there. So my position is to allow a couple days for those who missed court to come back in. So hopefully that will reduce the amount of attachments and what also ends up being suspended licenses. So that's what I would do.
All right, a grace period, I guess, in layman's terms
correct.
for us non-lawyers out here. All right, Mr. Gates, same question. If elected, a lot of people don't show up to court. In 60 seconds, what is your plan to get people to appear for court without having to set a high bond?
Well, first of all, we have technology. We have the technology to handle those cases. We need to start out at the issuance of that traffic ticket or municipal ticket. We already do it with the administrative hearing office and with the parking tickets, right? Not the parking tickets, but the camera tickets. So we can have a Zoom court. Everybody FaceTimes now. Everybody knows how to use Zoom. The officer can issue that summons, put a phone number on it, and text the person that court date. And all you have to do is call in and have court. So we have technology here. We have the things set in to do that. So it's very, very simple. We don't have to have this long process of issuing attachments and pulling people into court when we already have the tools to do it.
All right, let's start this question with you. Another one, 60 seconds. Many people who appear in traffic and municipal court, as you all well know, have mental health issues. That's one of the reasons why they may be arrested for different crimes. We'll start this with Mr. Gates. We'll start this with you in 60 seconds. Give us a creative, cutting-edge program that you would like to initiate for people who are arrested, who are suffering from a mental health issue.
Again, I would like to see wraparound services in that building to handle mental health issues. We're building we're rebuilding the old municipal court so we can have space there for the mental. We need psychologists, psychiatrists. We need mental health professionals in that building so we can meet people where they are. We have the resources to do it. We just need initiative from the city council and the sitting judges to initiate those practices. But if we had wraparound services to help those folks, we could start doing that tomorrow.
All right, Mr. Smith, same question. A lot of people who appear before judges and who are arrested are suffering some mental health issues. If elected in 60 seconds, what is your plan for a creative, cutting-edge program to help those who are dealing with a mental illness that are arrested and have to appear in municipal and traffic courts?
Thank you for that question, Travis. Mental health is a serious issue in the city of New Orleans and is across the country, especially with the onset of COVID and other issues, and especially in the city of New Orleans, we have hurricanes, and it's just a problem. As a judge, no matter who enters my court, if there's a first thing we would do what's called a pre-sentencing investigation. If I'm at the point of sentencing, we would do a PSI. After PSI, then at that point we can provide the services that all people who are having some kind of mental issue has. Currently, there are anger management courses. I will also ask the court to have a drug screening and those kinds of issues, because a lot of times mental issues lead to problems, and along with drug use. So that's what I would institute into the court.
All right, let's get to you for this next question. We're going to talk domestic violence cases. Obviously, it's on the rise in Louisiana. No one wants to see it happen. A lot of those cases, though, end up in municipal and traffic court. What is your plan, Mr. Smith, if elected in 60 seconds, to speed up that process and make sure that those domestic violence cases are heard in a timely manner? A lot of complaints that we hear are that it just takes too long to get those people into the system. So what is your plan in 60 seconds to speed up domestic violence cases as they appear before you?
Thank you, Travis. The issue with domestic violence cases generally are that as a judge, you want to take time. No one is happy with the speed of the legal process. We all know that the legal process is at its own pace. So when we're dealing with domestic violence issues, we have to make sure that we have proper contact with the victim and make sure that the defendant is treated fairly. That's part of the reasons why the process may seem long, but I don't necessarily think the timing of the procedure to get through the case is really that long. Sure, there are some complaints, but the law moves a little bit slower than traditional society.
Yeah, it's definitely not Law and Order on TV, which some people get used to. Same question, Mr. Gates. If elected in 60 seconds here, what is your plan to speed up domestic violence cases? Because the complaints that we hear a lot is that it just takes so long in the system. What is your plan in 60 seconds to try to get those cases very rapidly through the system?
Well, you have to prioritize those cases, and you have to put pressure on the district attorneys and the city attorneys who are prosecuting those cases to speed up. You have to make sure that they contact the victims. You need to make sure that they have all of their evidence. You need to make sure that the police are involved. You have to make sure that the police show up for court. So, and therein is another problem. We don't have enough police officers. So that slows down the problem as well. But again, to answer your question, we would prioritize domestic violence cases and handle those cases first, rather than handling the French Quarter, disturbing the peace cases, or the drunk in public cases. They need to be prioritized, and that's how I would handle it.
Which you all probably will see plenty of, by the way. French Quarter, disturbing the peace, or public drunk cases in municipal and traffic court. Okay, here's a question. We're going to start with you, Mr. Gates. What is your plan for more community service and less jail time? We hear from a lot of people that some people may get 3 months in prison when they could be doing community service, and they could be out helping the community, picking up trash, helping with graffiti. Do you have a plan in 60 seconds for community service in lieu of jail time?
Absolutely. There are several organizations that, that can offer community service to defendants or convicted defendants in the community. I'm on the board for the Travelers Aid Society. We help homeless people, so we can go out and help the homeless folks. We have all kinds of issues in New Orleans where we need volunteers and community service participants. We have a tremendous trash problem. That is a problem, but everybody doesn't have to pick up trash. You can work at your church. You can volunteer at a school. You can meet people where they are, and you need to find out what part of the city that they live in, so it would be easier for them to participate in a community service program.
All right, same question, Mr. Smith, in 60 seconds. What is your plan for more community service in lieu of jail time? Because like I told Mr. Gates, we hear a lot of that about people go to jail for 3 and 6 months, when a lot of people feel they'd be better served getting community service and helping better the city of New Orleans.
Good question, Travis. In the first 10 days, I will get a list of all nonprofits in the city of New Orleans that will accept any type of community service from the citizens of New Orleans that has been prosecuted through our court. I will ask that they be assigned to do the services. My specialty, what I would love, is to see more of us at the SPCA. That's been the place that I love. I got my dog from there, and they can always use some volunteers. So in the first 10 days, I would get a list of all the nonprofits in the city, have them on our docket, so we will be able to say, here are the community service projects, places that you could do your community service. You
said you're an Algiers guy. They have a great facility over there in Algiers for the
Yes.
SPCA. Let's start this question with you, Mr. Smith. It talks about DUIs in the city of New Orleans. Drunk driving is a problem nationwide. It's reared its ugly head here in the city of New Orleans. If elected, would you accept a reduction in sentence to reckless driving instead of DUI, which in some cases prevents somebody from getting an interlocking device on the wheel of their car to start their vehicle? What is your stance on that in 60 seconds?
Actually, no, I would not. Interlocking device is generally, it can be part of the sentencing by the judge, but it's generally assigned through the State Department of Motor Vehicles. So to answer your question, no, I will not accept it in lieu of an interlock. Sometimes I think both may be adequate, sufficient for the type of DWI that this person have, depending on the facts.
Right, depending on the charge. Same question, Mr. Gates. Would you accept a reduction of reckless driving instead of a DUI, which would prevent an interlocking device from going on somebody's car for a DUI? Again,
I'm going to have to agree with Bobby on this one. It depends on the facts of the case. I can't say just across the board that I would do that.
So here's a question really quickly in 60 seconds. Again, we'll start with you. How do you plan to treat repeat DUI offenders if they come before you as a judge?
Again, depending on the facts and the severity of their DUIs, I would take all of that in consideration, follow the law, and be fair. But you have to be fair. If you're going to be fair, you have to be firm as well. So depending on the circumstances of those repeat offenders, I'd have to take consideration of how I would make those decisions as far as sentencing.
All right, same question, Mr. Smith, in 60 seconds. What is your plan to deal with any repeat DUI offender that would appear before you?
First of all, I will be firm, but also fair, right? So the way traditionally you treat a repeat offender is by stiffening the sentencing. And that's what I will do. I will make the sentence more difficult. For example, we were just speaking of community service. On a traditional DWI, you may get ordered to 32 hours of community service. I will double, maybe even triple that. I will go up on the fines. I will use the sentencing statutes to implement the type of punishment that someone requires, depending on the facts, like Mr. Gates have said.
All right, we could talk all day about the issues at municipal and traffic court. You all are running for an open seat. I wish we had time for more questions. We don't. So we're going to end this with you all. A closing statement. You both have 60 seconds. We started with Mr. Gates, so this time, Mr. Smith, you get to start us off on closing statements here. You have 60 seconds to wrap everything up.
All right, thank you. To the citizens of New Orleans, you might not care who the municipal and traffic court judges are. That is until someone upsets your life by being a drunk driver. My name is Bobby Smith. I'm running for judge for Municipal and Traffic Court Division E for the city of New Orleans. I'm a veteran of the United States Army. I'm experienced, I'm prepared, I am committed. I have 20 years of practice of law. I've been a prosecutor, a defense attorney, and I've had the honor and privilege of sitting as judge. And I believe that is why I've been endorsed by the Congressman Troy Carter. I've been endorsed by local unions, and I am the official Democratic Party candidate. With that, I humbly ask for your vote. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Smith, Mr. Gates, we're going to wrap it up with you. You have 60 seconds to make a closing statement and let people know why you feel you're the best candidate.
Again, my name is Jeffrey Gates, and I am experienced. I have 14 years in municipal traffic court, as well as running my own private practice. I've been an assistant district attorney. I'm committed to change. I have the experience, and I have not gotten the endorsements of those folks, but I am endorsed by the community. So thank you.
All right. Jeffrey Gates, Bobby Smith, congratulations, two good candidates running for municipal and traffic court. Election day is November 8th. I am Travers Mackel. That is all the time that we have for this hot seat. You can watch this entire segment starting Monday morning on our website, wdsu.com, and make sure every Sunday now through Election Day, we will continue our series of hot seat debates.